The security alert vibrated against my hip. Affrontique. Insistent buzz. But it was the thumbnail preview on my lock screen that stole my breath. Un familiar. Festive balloons, blue and silver, were floating across the ceiling of my kitchen. With a shaking finger, I expanded the notification. Sound flooded through my phone's speaker laughter. The clinking of glasses. And my brother Mark's unmistakable, booming voice declaring a toast. To new beginnings. To our perfect home. The high-definition camera feed showed what should have been impossible. My brother, Mark, standing in the center of my living room. Champagne flute raised high. Surrounded by my nodding, cheering relatives. My sister-in-law, Jessica, was perched on my new quartz kitchen island. A wine glass dangling from her manicured fingers. Looking for all the world like she belonged there. Their children ran screaming across the hardwood floors I had paid to have refinished just last week. This was a home no one should have known I owned. A home no one had keys to except me. A home I had equipped with a comprehensive security system just 2 days ago. Complete with motion-activated cameras. My name is Clara. I'm 32, and a financial analyst. This is the story of how my family tried to steal my future. And how I took it back. 5 years. 5 years of 80-hour work weeks. Of selling my car to build a down payment. Of canceling vacations. Of taking on mind-numbing consulting work on weekends. All of it. Every sacrifice. Was distilled into the deed, tucked safely in my office briefcase. The lakeside property had been my silent obsession. My secret project. I'd closed on it 3 days ago. Telling not a single soul. I wanted the satisfaction of revealing it on my own terms. Of finally showing them what my boring career and obsessive saving had built. Yet somehow, they were inside. We deserve this upgrade, Mark continued. His voice thick with champagne and entitlement. After years of struggling while others had it easy. My jaw clenched so tight I tasted metal. I'd worked my way to a senior position, while Mark bounced between ventures. Complained about bad luck. And borrowed money from our parents that he never returned. Yet they always praised his ambition while treating my stable, high-earning career as somehow less impressive. Less. Male. I watched him gesture expansively around my living room, the room where I'd planned to finally read a book. The room I hadn't even slept in yet. My finger hovered over the emergency contacts on my phone. The police. The law. But a sickening wave of guilt washed over me. This was family. Calling the police felt wrong. Had I caused this? Maybe if I hadn't been so secretive. Maybe if I'd just told them about the house. This wouldn't have happened. This was the misstep my therapist was always talking about my need to manage. To smooth things over. To take the blame. I couldn't call the police. Not yet. I would make a call. I would handle this. I pressed the contact for Mom. She answered on the third ring. The sound of the party. Of my party. Loud in the background. Clara, honey. Where are you? We were wondering when you'd show up. Isn't this wonderful? My breath hitched. Mom. What are you doing? What is Mark doing? That's my house. The line was quiet for a second. The party noise fading as she must have moved to another room. Oh. Don't be selfish. Clara. She said. Her voice dropping to that familiar, chiding tone. We know. You did a wonderful job finding it. But Mark and Jessica have been struggling so much in that tiny apartment. This house is far too big for just you. 2 F882. What, Mom? I bought that house. It's mine. And we're so proud of you for that. She said, as if speaking to a child. But you know, families share. Of 894. Mark needs this. They have the kids. It makes more sense. CF 882. My blood ran cold. They knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a coup. And my own parents were in on it. Hold on. Clara. Your brother wants to talk to you. There was a fumbling sound. And then Mark's voice. Slick and jovial. Clara, hey, look. I know this seems a little weird. But it's perfect, he laughed. A short, nervous bark. It's a win-win. We move in. We'll pay you some rent. A little. I told Mom and Dad we'd all share it. You can have the guest room when you visit. It's better this way. Keeps it in the family. Don't make a scene. Don't ruin the party. We'll talk about the details tomorrow. Mark, you broke into my house. I whispered, the words trembling. Don't be so dramatic. The realtor Mom's friend. Jennifer, she let us in for a peek and we just settled in. Look, I've got to go. Everyone's waiting for cake. We'll see you when you get here. He hung up. I stared at the phone. My first plan, the logical, familial one, had failed spectacularly. They had abandoned me. They had stolen my dream. And they were now waiting for me to arrive with a housewarming gift. I slid to the floor of my office, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. The guilt was gone, burned away by a white-hot, clarifying rage. This wasn't a family matter. This was a crime. I stood up, my hands no longer shaking. I grabbed my briefcase, checking for the thick folder inside the deed, the closing papers, the wire transfer receipts, the mortgage documents, all bearing my name and my signature. My finger, steady this time, hovered over the emergency contacts. I pressed the button. 911. What is your emergency? This is Clara Bennett, I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. I own a home on Willowbrook Lane. I am watching a live video feed of people breaking and entering. They are trespassing. I need officers dispatched immediately. Of 820. Do you know these individuals? The dispatcher asked. I watched my brother on the screen, laughing as he smeared cake on Jessica's face. Unfortunately, I said, I know them very well. The drive to the house, my house took 19 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. CF 514. I had the folder of documents on the passenger seat. The crisp, notarized deed feeling like the only real thing in the world. 515. I wasn't serene. I wasn't calm. My heart was hammering against my ribs. A painful, frantic rhythm. I felt a deep, sickening guilt for what I was about to do, unleash the police on my own family. But the sound of Mark's laughing, dismissive voice on the phone echoed in my ears, drowning out the guilt with the cold, hard tide of betrayal. I parked across the street, just as 2 police cruisers pulled into the driveway, their lights painting the pristine white exterior of my home in alternating flashes of red and blue. CF 517. The festive balloons in the window suddenly looked garish and wrong. I watched on my phone's security feed as the party inside descended into panicked chaos. Of 518, I saw Jessica hurriedly hiding wine bottles. Relative, looking confused. And Mark straightening his shirt, practicing a smile in the hallway mirror. CF 518. He opened the door. His practiced, charming smile already in place. CF 519. The same smile he'd used since childhood. Right before lying. Evening. Officers. I heard him say, his voice smooth. Is something wrong? CF 520. We received a report of unauthorized individuals on the premises. Seer. The taller officer said, his hand resting near his belt. May I ask who owns this property? CF 521. Mark's posture lifted, his chin raising with an air of wounded pride. This is our new family home. We just closed on it. Of 522. The lie was so effortless, so smooth. It almost sounded true. CF 523. That was my cue. I stepped from my car, clutching the thick folder of documents, Of 524. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of the lake as I walked up the driveway, the gravel crunching beneath my heels. CF 526. Mark's expression transformed as he saw me. The easy charm evaporated, replaced instantly by surprise, then hot irritation, then a flicker of dark, reptilian fear before he composed himself. Of 527. Clara, he forced a laugh. What are you doing here? You called them. This is a misunderstanding. I ignored him and handed the folder to the officer. This is my house. Officer, I said, my voice shaking but clear. I closed on it 3 days ago. These are the closing statements, the wire transfer receipts, and the final deed. All in my name only. These people broke into my home. Of 529. By censure. The officer examined the paperwork under his flashlight, his partner's eyes fixed on Mark. CF 531. These documents seem to confirm Miss Bennett as the legal owner. The officer said, returning the folder to me. Sir, he said to Mark, unless you can provide proof of ownership, you and everyone here will need to leave. Immediately. Of 532. Jessica appeared in the doorway, her face sharp with indignation. This is ridiculous. Mark, tell them. This is a family matter. CF 533. She's my sister, Mark blustered, his charm fraying. Our parents helped with this. It's a family asset. CF 534. The documents are quite clear. Sia, the officer replied, his patience gone. Ma'am. He looked at me. Would you like us to issue a formal trespass warning to these individuals? CF 536. I looked past Mark into the house I had sacrificed 5 years of my life for. The banner still hung across the fireplace. Congratulations, Farrell family. CF 539. My family. Not their home. Yes, I said, the word quiet but firm, and I want it documented. Of 540. What followed was organized, humiliating chaos. CF 542. The officers were professional but firm, escorting my relatives out, one by one. CF 543. Children were crying. Aunts and uncles shuffled past, refusing to meet my eyes, muttering about my selfishness. CF 543. Jessica shot me a look of pure, venomous hatred. Mark just stared at me, his eyes cold and promising this wasn't over. CF 544. As Jessica was being ushered out, scrambling to grab her designer coat and her child's hand, her purse snagged on the doorknob. It fell, spilling its contents across the entryway floor. She let out a frustrated shriek, hastily shoving items back in lipstick. Keys, a phone, in her frantic, embarrassed rush to leave under the watchful eyes of the police. She didn't see her small leather wallet slide under the entryway console table. When they were gone, the police filed their report and left. I stood alone in my kitchen, the silence deafening. CF 545. Dirty glasses and cake-smeared plates cluttered the counters. CF 546. A child's drawing was taped to my brand-new stainless steel refrigerator. A crude drawing of the house with stick figures labeled, Our New Home. TF 547. I ripped it down, my hands trembling. Not from fear, but from a white-hot, clarifying rage. CF 548. This wasn't a mistake. This was an invasion. I opened every window, letting the cold night air purge the house of their laughter, their perfume, their breathtaking presumption. CF 550. This home was my line in the sand. Of 551. I started to clean, my movements jerky and angry. As I swept up party debris near the front door, I saw it, the small, beige leather wallet, half hidden under the console table. Jessica's. My first instinct was to call her. My second, born of a decade of being manipulated, was to look. I felt a hot wave of shame, a feeling of violating her privacy. CF 825. This felt wrong. But then I thought of her, perched on my counter, drinking wine in my home, a home they had broken into. The line had already been crossed. I opened it, just looking for a credit card to confirm it was hers. Och receipt fell out. From a local hardware store, dated yesterday. My blood turned to ice. The item's key duplication service 2 sets, and window latch repair kit 1. They hadn't just been let in by the realtor. They had broken in through a window, repaired it, and then immediately had my house keys copied. This was premeditated, but it was the second item, tucked into a side pocket, that made my world tilt. A folded piece of notebook paper, a handwritten list, copy keys, done. File mail forwarding @USPS. Move-in party done. Monday 10 a.m. Meet W divided by Bank Clara's file. RE home equity line. I read it 3 times. They weren't just partying. They were moving in. They were forwarding my mail. And on Monday, they were planning to go to the bank with my file, which they must have stolen from our parents' house, and attempt to commit fraud. They were going to forge my signature and take out a home equity line of credit on my house. This wasn't just trespassing. This wasn't a family squabble. This was felony identity theft. The victory of kicking them out suddenly felt terrifyingly small. I hadn't stopped them. I had merely interrupted them. The backlash started at 8:43 the next morning. Just as I was standing on my new back deck, breathing in the scent of pine and lake water. CF 552. I was clutching Jessica's wallet in one hand and the hardware store receipt in the other. My phone vibrated with a barrage of notifications. Mom, what have you done? Your brother is devastated. You humiliated him in front of his children. 2F 553. Dad, call us immediately. This family situation needs to be resolved. This is not how we raised you. CF 554. Aunt Vivian, shame on you for embarrassing your family with the police. Mark was just trying to do something nice. CF 554. The family narrative was already being rewritten, with me cast as the cold, cruel villain. CF 556. But this time, the script was different. This time, I had the note. I had the receipt. I calmly photographed the wallet's contents and emailed the images, along with the saved security footage and the police report number, to my lawyer. Of 558. Then I silenced my phone. Of 559. The doorbell rang at 3:17 p.m. CF 563. My parents stood on the porch, their faces a practiced blend of disappointment and grave concern. CF 563. Clara, my mother said, her voice soft, attempting to step inside. I didn't move. I blocked the entrance. CF 564. You can talk to me from there. My father's face reddened. This isn't how we raised you to treat family. He snapped. Of 565. Interesting definition of family. I replied, my voice devoid of the tremor it had held yesterday. Does it include breaking into someone's home and claiming it as your own, CF 566? Your brother made a mistake, Mom said, her voice dropping to the soothing, manipulative tone she'd always used to explain away Mark's actions. CF 567. He was just excited. They've been struggling so much in that tiny apartment. When he heard about this beautiful place. Of 568. The point is, my dad cut in. His patience gone. This house is much too big for just you. CF 573. Mark has a family. 3 children. It makes more sense. CF 574. No. The word was a closed door. CF 575. What makes sense is respecting ownership. CF 575. I held up the plastic Ziploc bag I'd placed the evidence in. What doesn't make sense is this. I held up the hardware receipt. This is a receipt from 2 days ago. For key duplication. He didn't just find his way in. He broke in through a window and had my locks copied. Their faces went pale. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. And this, I held up the handwritten note, is his plan. Monday, 10 a.m. Meet W divided by Bank Clara's file. RE home equity line. This wasn't a mistake. Mom, this wasn't excitement. This was a premeditated criminal conspiracy to steal my house and commit bank fraud. They were utterly silent. The practiced disappointment, the righteous anger, it all evaporated, leaving only the ugly, naked truth. So, you can leave, I said, and you can tell Mark that if he comes near my property again, I'm not just pressing charges for trespassing. I'm pressing charges for conspiracy to commit fraud. They left without another word. That evening, a text from Mark. We need to talk like adults. Riverside Cafe tomorrow. 1 p.m. of 575. I knew this was coming. Confrontation delayed was just confrontation postponed. I'll be there. The cafe was bustling with the lunch crowd. CF 576. Mark sat at a corner table, dressed in a tailored shirt, his smile polished and rehearsed. CF 576. It was a classic setup, a public location to prevent a scene, a casual environment to suggest reasonableness. Of 577. Clara. He stood, gesturing to the chair. Thanks for coming. I already ordered your favorite lemon tart and Earl Grey. Of 579. It was the same tactic he'd used since we were children. A small, thoughtful gesture to distract from a large, selfish transgression. Of 580. I sat but pushed the plate aside. You have 10 minutes. Of 581. His smile flickered. Look. He leaned forward. Things got out of hand. I admit that. Of 581. But you have to understand our situation. The kids need space. Jessica deserves a nice home. Of 582. When I heard you'd bought that place alone. Without even discussing it. Of 583. Why would I discuss my personal financial decisions with you? CF 584. Because we're family, he said, as if explaining gravity to a fool. Family shares. Family supports each other. CF 585. Like when you supported my career by telling everyone I just push numbers around. CF 587. Ancient history. He waved dismissively. We're talking about now. About a solution that works for everyone. Of 588. There already is one. I said. I own the house. You don't. Of 589. He leaned in, his charm dissolving, replaced by a cold threat. Mom and Dad think we should share it. CF 590. And they're prepared to help me. Legally. TF 591. Did you know? He lowered his voice. That there are family property precedents. That verbal agreements about shared family assets can be binding. It could get very ugly. CF 592. I almost laughed. Of 593. He was trying to bluff me. On my territory. Verbal agreements, I said. I reached into my bag and, very slowly, placed 2 plastic-bagged items on the table between us. The hardware store receipt, and the handwritten note. Mark's eyes darted down. His face, the confident, charming mask, didn't just flicker. It collapsed. The color drained from his cheeks. He stared at the note. He wasn't a charming rogue anymore. He was a cornered criminal. There are no verbal agreements. Mark, I said, my voice low and steady. But there is this. This is a receipt for key duplication from before your party. That's called premeditated breaking and entering. And this, I tapped the note with one finger, is a handwritten plan to forge my signature at my bank for a home equity line. That's called conspiracy to commit identity theft and bank fraud. He couldn't speak. He looked physically ill. I stood up, placing my hands on the table. This isn't a negotiation. F600. This isn't a family squabble. This is you, committing multiple felonies. So, let me be absolutely clear. That house is mine. A 598, if you or mom or dad try any legal threats. If you post one more thing on social media slandering me. If you even drive on my street. This evidence, all of it, goes straight to the district attorney, not just the police. The DA. Are we clear? He stared at the note, his jaw working silently. You've always been selfish, he finally whispered. But the words were hollow. Pathetic. CF 601. Lou Ballingar. No. Mark, I said, picking up my bag. I've just proven I'm willing to protect what's mine from someone who never learned the difference between taking and earning. CF 603. As I walked away, he didn't call after me. He didn't threaten. He just sat there, staring at the proof of his own destruction. Of 604. The escalation was predictable, but weak. CF 606. The social media campaign happened. But it was just vague posts about how some people hoard space while families struggle. CF 607. My lawyer used the receipt and the note. The restraining order wasn't just granted, it was expedited. The judge citing clear evidence of criminal intent. F. 612. Liu Baiyishisan. The family response was still nuclear. CF 614. My invitation to my cousin's wedding was rescinded. CF 614. My mother called, weeping, claiming I was destroying the family. CF 615. But the threats were gone. They knew I had them. 1 month later, I hosted a housewarming on his. CF 620. Not for my blood relatives, but for my chosen family, my colleagues who'd covered my shifts, my friends who'd listened to me obsess over interest rates, the neighbor who'd sent the first text, CF 621, as they filled my home with laughter and genuine congratulations. I realized that family isn't defined by shared DNA, but by shared respect. CF 623. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. I told Mark what he did was wrong. Not everyone agrees with him. Congratulations on your beautiful home. Cousin Diane. CF 625. 626. Proof that standing firm didn't mean standing entirely alone. CF 630. 2 months later, I heard through Diane that Mark and Jessica had moved into a small rental, funded by a loan from my parents' retirement account. Of 631, the social media campaign was deleted. I filed a formal complaint against the realtor, who lost her license for the ethics violation. CF 633. 634. My parents and I have a fragile, icy truce, built on the new, clear boundary of my front door. CF 635. Christmas was spent at separate tables. CF 637. The divide is painful, but it was necessary. CF 638. When I turn the lock on my door each night, I enter a space that is unquestionably mine. CF 639. A space I earned, and a space I protected. CF 940. Some boundaries, once drawn, should never be erased. CF 641. Some victories aren't about winning against others, but about finally, refusing to lose yourself. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to draw a line in the sand to protect your peace, please share your experience in the comments below. It's a reminder that standing up for yourself, even when it's hard, is the most important work you can do. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about reclaiming your power.